What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Nintendo Land. We are now 27 days away until that Nintendo Switch 2 Nintendo Direct, and something that's been on my mind lately regarding Nintendo Directs. In fact, it's been a while since we really had one. The last Direct was in June last year of 2024, and we missed a lot of Directs that year as well. We never got a February one, and we never got a September one, so it's been a long time. And of course, this year in 2025, it seems like Nintendo just decided to skip the February Direct also. There was also a lot of quote-unquote inside sources that claimed that they heard something about a Nintendo Direct happening and nothing actually happened, and a lot of people were claiming that there were still Switch 1 games to be announced. So what happened? Was there actually a Nintendo Direct planned? Should there have been a Nintendo Direct planned? Let's talk about it. Of course, first we have the question of the day. Today's question comes from Samage432 that states, what 3 Mario enemies would you make into Paper Mario partners, assuming for the next Paper Mario game on Switch 2? My pick would be Pokio from Mario Odyssey. Pokio is a great pick as it's one of my favorite characters from that game, but I would have to choose one, probably a Hammer Bro, and I actually really would like it if he had the abilities of all the other bros as well, like the options to shoot fire, ice, hammers, and boomerangs as well, just like the ultimate Hammer Bro. He could even be maybe Army Bro from Super Princess Peach if you remember him. Secondly, I'd probably pick a Bullet Bill, something that can blast into opponents or even cover the stage in smoke, making it hard for them to land attacks on you and your crew. And then maybe a Womp or Thwomp would be really cool as well to have as a partner. Crushing enemies and being able to use defensive measures like barricades for you and your team would be awesome as well. Remember, in order to get your comment on the daily Switch 2 hype comments, make sure you comment the word hype in all caps, followed by your big Switch 2 question that you have for me. It could really be anything, just comment it down below. Thank you guys, and back to the video. So what happened with Nintendo? Did they ever plan a Nintendo Direct for Switch 1 games before the Switch 2 Direct? It's hard to say. Honestly, when I was thinking about a Switch 1 focused Nintendo Direct happening just a month before Switch 2's Direct, I kinda was skeptical. Why would Nintendo do something like that? All their hype and engagement right now is focused on the Switch 2 Direct. Why would they interfere with that? And I think that's exactly the point here. Maybe Nintendo never even planned for this to happen, but I'm not gonna just cross it out and say that it was just a stupid idea from the beginning, because it's not really. In fact, it actually makes me scratch my head again, because I think to myself, then what the heck is the plan until we get to Switch 2's release? Nothing? Are we just going to sit here in a big gray area with no releases? It's hard to say because we don't have a release date for Switch 2, but if I were a betting man, with the April Nintendo Direct happening for Switch 2, I would expect the console to release no more than a month or two right after. So I'm expecting a Switch 2 release around May or June. I think that makes a lot of sense. Because if it was a holiday release, we would have a slate of games that we know about that's coming in the next couple of months, and we don't. The only one we know about is Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, and there's nothing else. Nintendo's not going to go from now being March all the way till September or October, the release of Switch 2 for a holiday season, with no games in between. This would be one of the biggest gaps of absolutely nothing for Nintendo ever, and would be kind of a financial disaster for them this year. So clearly, to me, it sounds like that they're just having all of this hype go straight to Switch 2, and the console will release shortly after that April Switch 2 Direct. So what's the problem here? We have a March release, and then boom, April's here, and we'll have the Switch 2 Direct, and then just a month after, we'll have the actual Switch 2, and then games will start to follow for the rest of the year. We're set, right? Well, there's another question. Why are there no games coming out? I mean, when you look at the fact that there's some months of emptiness. For instance, this year has already been pretty lackluster. February has had no game releases. January was just the third time we'd get Donkey Kong Country Returns. March is also an old game with Xenoblade Chronicles X coming back from the Wii U. So is Nintendo also not going to have anything in the month of April besides this Switch 2 Direct? Is there going to be nothing in May if Switch 2 isn't out yet? What about June? What if Switch 2 is not out in June yet? They definitely need games to fill out those gaps, and one of the bigger ones is Metroid Prime 4. We know it's coming this year, and it's still apparently planned to be coming to Switch 1. I think it is also going to be on Switch 2, but is it going to be a cross release, and when is this game coming? Because I would expect it to be relatively soon or around the release of Switch 2, and if that's the case, that's very soon. Where the heck are Prime 2 and 3? Is Nintendo really just going to give fans Prime 1 remastered and then just say, oh, if you want 2 and 3, you're going to have to go play that somewhere else? Are they doing a Mario Galaxy 2 to those games? I really hope not, because those games need to be on Switch. Now, personally, I played all these games and still own them back on the Wii and Wii U with the trilogy and all that. That's all great, but the problem is a lot of people don't. Maybe a lot of people just for the first time got started with Metroid Prime 1 Remastered, which I saw online. A lot of people started with that game. They're not going to have access to 2 and 3. And if this is going to be a story continuation, they're going to need access to 2 and 3 unless they have a whole recap at the beginning of 4 to help catch people up, which they definitely could do. As someone who personally loves the Prime trilogy and thinks everyone should play it, Nintendo needs to, have that option. It needs to be available. 2 and 3 need to be released, and that's something that could be in a Nintendo Direct. Another game that's pretty much guaranteed to come in my eyes is Kirby Planet Robobot Remaster or Remake, whatever it's going to be. This was something that was brought up by Nate the Hate, and he still is claiming it's coming this year. Nate the Hate is an extremely reliable source that we do trust right now, considering the fact that he leaked the exact time frame for the Switch 2 announcement trailer. So we can confirm that he pretty much has some really good inside sources, but he claimed around that same time frame that Planet Robobot was coming in some type of remaster, I think he said. So yeah, where's this game at? This makes tons of sense. HAL Labs loves to have some type of Kirby project every single year, and as they're working on the next 2D or 3D game, this is a perfect game to get out and maybe even add some additional content to. I can see this happening, but once again, this is something that feels like it could be in a Nintendo Direct with those Prime games. And honestly, this felt like a perfect type of game to have released last month in February, but still not a word. In fact, we're already on March 6th and still no word from Nintendo of this game. There's still massive rumors from like every source out there talking about Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War remake, and this is still a game that has not happened. I mean, we've been hearing about this for years now, and this felt like a small, perfect type of game to have for a Nintendo Direct as a kind of filler month for the next couple of months, and still nothing. And look, I know we've been getting so many remakes, remasters, and ports, so many old games. I get it, we played these games before. I understand completely, because I'm somebody who actively is against nothing but remakes, remasters, and ports back to back to back to back. But this is the perfect time to do stuff like this, because we know a new console is on the horizon, and we know Nintendo is gearing up for tons of brand new games, first party releases, and this is the perfect time to kind of fill out the rest of that Switch 1 software library with some of those older games that we've been missing so much of, like some of those 3DS games still, like Kid Icarus Uprising, or maybe something like Miitomo or Tomodachi Life. Even if this was just a mini direct to give us some smaller announcements, like maybe even a new Rhythm Heaven or something, would be a perfect time, because this is the end of the Switch 1. Let's get out everything that we can before we move on to the big exciting stuff for Switch 2. Or maybe all this stuff is actually just saved for Switch 2. That could also be the case. I think a lot of us got this mindset now that if there's a remake, remaster, or port coming, that it has to be on Switch 1 because Switch 2 isn't going to have any. That's never going to be the case, because these remakes, remasters, and ports, like I said earlier, help to fill out those empty months. So we're still going to be getting games like that on Switch 2, and I think that's completely fine. For instance, there's rumors right now suggesting we're going to get some type of big remake of a Zelda game in the first year of Switch 2, whether it be Ocarina of Time or that rumored Breath of the Wild 4K game. I hope that's not the case, but whatever it is, it seems like maybe Nintendo could be planning for a lot of remakes and remasters in those empty months as we wait for the big releases on Switch 2. Because man, we know for the first party franchises, it can take up to 6, 7, and even almost 8 years if you look at Super Mario Odyssey. Shoot, look at Mario Kart 8. It's been 11 years since it came out on the Wii U. Look at Donkey Kong. Like, we can just keep on going. Sometimes we have to wait almost a decade for the next installment of that game, sometimes more than a decade. So yeah, it's definitely worth having those remakes and remasters to help fill out those empty years as we still wait for the next mainline game. So does Nintendo need to have a Nintendo Direct before the Switch 2 Direct? No. They don't, and they never did need to. I think they can easily make it to the Switch 2 presentation, but I feel like there's a couple of games that should be getting announced. For instance, I'm still really stuck on Primes 2 and 3, and I feel like they could still just get shadow dropped on Twitter. Nintendo has done it before. In fact, with the only game that we know coming out soon being Xenoblade Chronicles X, Nintendo actually did it with that game as well. They just shadow dropped it on Twitter at the end of last year and said it was coming, next year on March. So maybe they could do the same thing. They could just just drop on Twitter one day, hey, Metroid Primes 2 and 3 are on Switch now, go get them, or coming in the next month. So just keep your eyes peeled. I feel like that could also happen with Kirby Planet Robobot very soon as well, and I feel like that might just be the way they handle it, and no, I don't think they need a whole Nintendo Direct. A mini Direct could work, and even Shadow Drops. I think that just makes the wait for Switch 2 even more rewarding, because we waited so long. With Nintendo skipping 2 Nintendo Directs last year and the February Direct this year, clearly Nintendo has been saving so many big banger announcements for this individual show, announcing it as early as they did several months in advance and just getting us hyped knowing that they're going to have a Switch 2 live play thing going on around the world in 3 different locations in the US at least. Clearly Nintendo is very excited about this thing, and I know for sure I am, and we all are, but we're only 27 days away. We're getting ever so close to this Switch 2 Direct. I can't wait. It's going to be like Christmas for us Nintendo fans. But let me know in the comments down below what you think about there not being a Nintendo Direct before the Switch 2 one. Do you care? Do you want some of these game announcements before we get to Switch 2? Are you also on the Prime 2 and 3 wave as well? Let me know down below. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe before you head out, and like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See you guys.